10 stories. 10 people who got pushed too far and pushed back. Grab a snack and let the power washer do its thing. Story 1. My wife's quote-unquote friend insulted her, and I've been slowly returning the favor. So my wife's friend got married a couple of years back. She made it this 3-day-long event with multiple meals, 2 ceremonies, and different dress codes for everything. Day 1 was a dinner that started at 9 p.m. and took 3 hours, and then she forced everyone to go dancing. We joined for the meal, but it was a weekday, so we told her we couldn't stay. The next day at brunch, she told us how much fun they had and how even old people and children went. By day 3, we were exhausted because we are not party people, but we wanted to be nice. So that morning, we get up early. We get into our 4th outfit of her event, and my wife does her hair and makeup for the 4th time. Her friend greets us and says, "Oh, hi, babe. Wow, you look comfy," with this judgmental tone, as if my wife wasn't trying hard enough. Which was bullshit. My wife brushed it off as wedding stress. But I've decided that her friend is just an asshole, and I will slowly repay her for years. Since then, at various gatherings, I have given her the following compliments. I love how you don't care about vanity. You just go with that natural look, and who cares what people think? You look super comfy. I've said variations of that one several times. I wish I could have your attitude about arriving whenever. I always have to show up on time for things. The greatest part is, you can see the gears turning as she tries to figure out if I'm being complimentary or not. I will continue doing this until this person is no longer in our lives, or one of us dies. 54,000 people are behind him. The top comment, with 11,000 upvotes, suggested a new one. I never get tired of seeing that outfit. And he says he's saving all of it to a note on his phone. Story 2. Spotify support told me to read their refund policy. So I did, and I forced them to give me a refund. My Spotify premium renewed today because I forgot to cancel. I immediately checked their refund policy online and confirmed I was eligible, so I canceled the plan within minutes and hopped on the support chat to ask for the refund. Seemed simple, right? Wrong. The agent, Christina, gave me the classic runaround. She said the 14-day refund period only applies to your initial sign-up, and since I'd been a member for months, I was out of luck. She even sent me a link to the policy to prove her point, telling me to read it. This is where the malicious compliance comes in. I did exactly what she said. I read the policy, and then I went deeper and found their full, legally binding terms of use. And what did I find? In Section 3, under withdrawal right, it clearly states you have 14 days after your purchase to withdraw for any reason. A monthly renewal is a new purchase. I went back to Christina and quoted the terms of use directly. She put me on hold to check backstage, then came back with the same denial. Her team was doubling down on the incorrect script, so I played my final card. I sent this message. Since this dispute is specifically about the legal interpretation of the withdrawal right in your terms of use, could you please provide the contact information for Spotify's legal department? The change was instant. Suddenly, she had to see what she could do. 5 minutes later, I've managed to ask some support with our backstage team, and we can go ahead and process a refund for you. They folded like a cheap suit. Their business model counts on you giving up. Don't. You are entitled to your money back. 40,000 people called this justified. The top comment said, they never expect people to actually read the terms and conditions, let alone understand them and apply them. Story 3. My job told us they would pay more if an employee became bilingual. So, I learned Welsh. I had a job with a standing policy that if you could speak at least 2 languages, you got a 10% raise. I've always been a natural at languages, but I don't speak any of them fluently, usually just enough to get into trouble. At a previous job, I was disciplined for telling a supervisor who only ever addressed me in Spanish to please speak English, in German. She wrote me up for speaking a language she didn't understand, and she was completely oblivious to the irony. But I got a job I liked, and I saw that pay incentive. We only had so many bilingual employees in a job that frequently requires you to go to job sites where English is not spoken. Well, I wanted to learn the language of my ancestors, so I picked up a Welsh class online. I didn't become fluent, but I spoke enough to carry on a rudimentary conversation, which would be great if anybody here actually spoke Welsh. Then I went to HR to see if I qualified for the raise. You had to talk to management, and they would test your proficiency. So I proceeded to tell them, in Welsh, that I could speak it, and that my family came from Wales in 1745. The manager told me that the policy meant Spanish. But the policy didn't specify Spanish. It just said bilingual. So they honored the policy, gave me my raise, and then changed the policy immediately after. I have never once had to use Welsh at work, but they have had me translate for new hires who couldn't understand clients with very heavy Cajun and Scottish accents. 26,000 people called this justified. The top comment, with 10,000 upvotes, said, telling your manager to please speak English in German is hilarious. Story 4. Am I the asshole for connecting to the AirPod after my niece swallowed it to see if it would play in her stomach? When my 3-year-old niece swallowed my sister's left AirPod, everyone started worrying right away. We called the hospital and they said an ambulance was on the way. So while we waited, I tried to lighten the situation. I connected the AirPod to my phone and I put my ear on her stomach to check if I could hear it. Surprisingly, I actually heard a little sound coming from inside her, which made the moment a bit funny for me. For the record, the song was Saturday Love, but the people around us did not find it amusing. They all looked at me like I wasn't taking things seriously. I was just trying to calm the mood, but I ended up being the only one laughing. Well, me and my niece, while everyone else was still stressing about the AirPod inside her. Here's my thinking. Everyone was gloomy, and if her favorite uncle panicked, she would panic too. So I decided to be the playful uncle she knows. She loved being held like a phone. And the AirPod? It was removed at the hospital by endoscopy. She's completely fine. And yes, the AirPod still works. Reddit ruled, no assholes here. The top comment, with 35,000 upvotes, said, I don't think I can be unbiased with this one. That's hilarious. And another, with 11,000 upvotes, said, it was not for laughs. It was for science. It had to be done. Story 5. She erased us from her wedding, so I'm erasing her from mine. When my brother got married, his bride had very specific expectations. She wanted the whole family in her wedding colors, and we all did it. People flew in from out of state to make her feel celebrated. The day before the wedding, she made some pointed remarks about how our side of the family never takes anything seriously, and she wasn't expecting us to take this seriously either. Feelings were hurt before the wedding even began. But we still showed up, we looked great, and we participated. Then the photos and the video came back. Not a single picture of our side of the family was posted. Not one. In the entire 3-minute highlight reel, there were no faces from our family, except a 3-second clip of my parents with the bride and groom. The rest of us? It's like we never existed. I texted her, cordially, and asked if she could send me the pictures with just our siblings. She said we never took those pictures. That is wild, because I remember helping people adjust corsages for them. She doubled down on the gaslighting. I gave it 6 months and asked again, and suddenly she had no idea what I was talking about. Fine. Here's where the petty revenge comes in. I'm getting married in 8 days, and I've been planning this moment since she tried to erase us. I hired a great photographer and videographer. What she doesn't know is that the videographer has a secret mission. Make it look like she's getting all the attention. Track her. Hover near her like she's the star of the show. She will feel so seen. And then the final cut? She won't appear for even 1 second. Just like she made sure we didn't. I didn't even invite her. Word must have gotten out because she cornered me at a family dinner and said, unfortunately, I have to work the day before and after your wedding, but I should still be able to make it. I was so stunned, I just said, that's fine. The Airbnb is booked whether you're there or not. To cope, I spelled her name wrong on the wedding invite on purpose. That was my first move. The video blackout will be my last. 49,000 people said this was justified. The top comment, with 24,000 upvotes, said, for the love of all that is petty, update me. So she updated. The wedding was beautiful. The videographer knew exactly who the sister-in-law was. The sneak peek clips came back, and she has yet to see her in a single frame. Over 200 gigabytes of raw footage, so the sister-in-law exists on a hard drive somewhere. She just never made the highlights. Story 6. My boss chastised me for taking a late lunch during a mission-critical outage, so I clocked out when the whole network went down. This is my first IT job at a small business. I was the first IT person the company ever hired. My boss keeps things running, but he has no formal training. 3 days ago, the only computer with the shipping software went down, with hundreds of packages waiting to ship. I recommended an immediate system reset I had ready for exactly this occasion, but the owner overrode me. He wanted me to reinstall the programs piece by piece and deal with phone support because he paid extra for tech support. His call. I followed orders. I was on the phone for hours, and I did not leave my post until the job was done. That meant I took my lunch half an hour late. No big deal for me. But when I clocked back in, my boss was standing at my desk, fuming because I took a lunch outside of normal hours. He insisted I must take my 30-minute lunch from 12 to 1 per company policy. So today, the whole network goes out at 12:25, and I had not taken my lunch yet. Nothing can connect to anything, and I really can't do a thing anyway because we sublet the office, and I'm not allowed to touch the routers. So I set up a recording, left a diagnostic running, and went to lunch. 12 to 1, per company policy. When I got back, my boss was standing at my desk again. He gave me a passive-aggressive, the network is up, by the way, and refused to say another word about it. 12,000 people called it deserved. The top comment said, the secret instruction is that if things go wrong, you don't get lunch. He just can't say that, because it's illegal. Story 7. Am I the asshole for refusing to pay for my sister's husband's surgery with my inheritance and college money? Some context. My sister is 27, I'm 18, and we lost our dad a year ago. He was my only parent. Dad left inheritance money for me and my sister. She used hers to get new cars and renovate her house. I live with my aunt right now because my brother-in-law didn't let me stay with my sister. I'm planning on using my inheritance to pay for college tuition. I've always wanted to be a doctor. My sister and I haven't been close. It started after she married her chronically ill husband, who was allowed to make backhanded comments about our dad, mock his illness, and make a scene at his funeral only because he's ill and shouldn't be held accountable for his behavior. But lately my sister kept visiting, venting about my brother-in-law's condition. He's been in and out of the hospital with heart problems, and he needs a surgery. She brought up my inheritance money several times and then straight up asked if I could pay for her husband's surgery. She said she'd pay me back in less than a year, but there's no guarantee she'll pay it back before it's time to apply for college. I felt like I was risking my future. I refused, and she had a meltdown at my aunt's house, calling me heartless and cruel. She said her husband's health should be a priority, that education is nothing compared to someone's health, and she asked if I'd be happy to see her as a widow, and my nephew with no father. Now she's been sending me texts and pictures of her family, telling me this is what I'm saying no to. I cried and felt like I was being selfish. My friend said, let them sell the cars, and he warned me that if I give them the money, I may never go to medical school. 50,000 people voted not the asshole. The top comment said, cars depreciate quickly, but it still isn't your problem that she spent all of her inheritance unwisely. And another comment, with 10,000 upvotes, said, you can have this relationship with your sister, or you can pay for medical school. You can't have both. Story 8. Am I the asshole for refusing to go on my wife's family vacation for a full week after we had agreed not to repeat it? For years, my wife, our 2 kids, and I went to the same beach town for a week with her brother's family and her mom. The trip has become painfully repetitive and rigid. Same beach, same street, same schedule, same restaurants on the same days, strict quiet times, zero flexibility. The last couple of years were miserable. The houses got smaller while the kids got bigger. Our kids were bored and stir-crazy, and when I took them out to do things, it caused tension because I was, quote, going outside the plan. Even my wife admitted the trip was not enjoyable anymore. So after the last trip, we had a long conversation, and we agreed we would not do that vacation again. Mountains, a lake, a different beach, anything else. Then last week, my wife handed me her phone and asked which vacation house was nicer. Same beach, same street, the same exact trip. Her mom said the location was sentimental, her brother's family agreed immediately, and my wife said it was this or nothing. She had already committed herself and our kids for the full week. I was informed after the fact, and she just assumed I would go along with it. We have been fighting for a week. I offered a compromise. Since it is so important to her, I would come for the last 2 nights. Now she says that since I clearly don't want to be there, I have ruined it. And she has brought it up in front of the kids. So, am I the asshole? Reddit said, not the asshole. The top comment, with almost 12,000 upvotes, said, I just go and make plans with my kids to do whatever we want. Make memories with your kids. Screw everyone else. Story 9. Am I the asshole for refusing to pay my quote-unquote house sitter? A few weeks ago, I caught up with a good friend of mine, Jen. She was telling me what a nightmare her new landlady is. Entering her room without knocking. Timing her showers and charging extra if they ran over 5 minutes. She even installed cameras in the kitchen to watch the housemates while she is away. Jen had a new place lined up, but the room wasn't free for another month. My husband and I happened to have a week-long trip planned, so I told Jen, if you want a break from the nightmare, you are welcome to stay at our place while we are gone. She gladly accepted. I gave her a key, told her the fridge was full of wine, to help herself to anything in the kitchen, and set her up on all our streaming services. Have a good time. We got back yesterday. A few wine bottles finished, the kitchen a bit of a mess, but overall fine. Then Jen called, asking when I would be transferring her the money for house sitting. She expected $500 for the week. I have no pets, no plants. She did no housework. My place is even 30 minutes closer to her work. If I hadn't known about her landlady situation, the house would have just sat empty. I texted her exactly that and said paying her for what was essentially her own vacation was not reasonable. She is furious and says she was depending on that money. Am I the asshole? Reddit's verdict, not the asshole. The top comment with 14,000 upvotes said, you do not owe this person any money. And another, with 11,000, said, charge her $1,000 for 1 week's rent plus a cleaning fee, like an Airbnb. Our last story. My supervisor sarcastically told me to call the fire department. So I did. I worked in retail between jobs back in the early 90s. It was December, at a major department store that is no longer around. They tried to cram as much product on the floor as possible, to the point that you couldn't walk through the aisles. You had to twist and turn to get past the fixtures. I casually mentioned to a supervisor that if the fire department ever came in, they would close us down for the hazards. She was highly stressed, and she blurted out, "You know what? Then call the fire department." Well, she did tell me to call. On the way home, I stopped by a government building, and they patched me through to the station's non-emergency line. The fire chief himself answered. I told him how crowded the store was and what the supervisor said. He had a good laugh and said they'd check it out. I was off the next day, but I heard about it when I got back. The fire chief and a station house full of firefighters showed up to do an inspection. He tells the store manager that egress is being blocked, and he'd have to remove a lot of the fixtures in the aisles. The store manager says he has orders from corporate. The fixtures stay. The fire chief assures him he will win this argument. The manager stands his ground. All right, boys, close them down. They evacuated the store, all 3 levels, and closed every entrance. In December, prime Christmas shopping season. The manager tried to protest, and suddenly the sheriff's department started showing up. They were closed for 5.5 hours while the chief, the manager, and the employees rearranged the entire store. About a week later, the supervisor asked why we can't set something up a certain way. The store manager replied, "The fire department won't allow that." And that was it. The supervisor never treated me differently afterward, so I'm guessing she never realized it was me. 25,000 people called this justified. That's all 10. If one of these made you feel something, the comments are open and there are plenty more where these came from. Follow for more stories like this.